Okay, Helldivers, we're back and we have got the final rendition of the 60-day community commitment. This one is absolutely huge, and not only did they post up a video regarding everything, they have now obviously given us all of the patch notes, so we're going to break down everything for you guys. This is ginormous, so make sure you are prepared for this one, because it's going to be a bloody slog. They have introduced everything that you guys were asking for, including the supply drops on the map. Your main exosuits are now on the map. There is so much more to cover. We've got loads to go over. So with that being said, if you haven't already, smash that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe with post notifications turned on. It'd be so greatly appreciated. And make sure that you check out our sponsor, Instant Gaming, the platform where you can buy your video games for cheaper for PC and consoles with the best deals, offers, promotions, discounts, all up to 70% off, pre-orders, new releases, and so much more. Links in the description. Get your games cheaper. Let's get into what's going on with Helldivers 2. Starting off, they post up the overview where the final part of the 60-day commitment is now here. This patch marks the last set of changes they aimed to implement in the 60-day commitment, while also adding address issues they previously didn't have time to fix. So what does this patch contain? They contain a hell of a lot. They finally introduced the new functionality to certain items to give players more depth in mastering their equipment. For example, the GR8 recoilless rifle and the AC8 autocannon now have programmable ammunition, and drones that come with backpacks can now be toggled on or off for added control. That's just one example of what it is that they've brought in. But as far as balance changes goes, we're going to dive straight into it. Additional supply items are now visible on the map, including exosuits, support stratagems, which is a huge ask. We asked for that one for quite some time, and it's now finally here. They've also removed the ricochets from orbital stratagem projectiles, including Eagle 1 bombs and the FAF-14 spear missiles. They can no longer ricochet off of targets, which is amazing, because it means it's finally just going to hit it, and kaboom, we've got our winner. Helldiver armor tweaks. Both heavy and light armor are now more effective. The heavy armor reduces damage taken by 25%, up from 20, which is 5% more damage reduction. And the light armor has an 8% less damage reduction as well. So that one has had a awesome intake, which means you guys can now sponge off a little bit more damage, and it makes it a little bit more viable. Stratagems and weapons tag description updates, and they also have now more information, and they are also categorized. So armor penetration 2 is classified as light armor penetrating, penetration 3 is medium, penetration 4 is heavy, and penetration 5 is classified as an anti-tank. So we've now got some sort of recognition of which one is going to be which. Primary weapons, we have had a load to mess around with. The plasma projectile behavior for this one is amazing. They've standardized the behavior of the plasma projectiles, which previously had varying characteristics, is how they traveled through the air. Now, all plasma projectile experience high drag, causing them to slow down faster. However, each plasma weapon still fires projectiles at different speeds and calibers, so their effective ranges will remain distinct. This is very noticeable for most weapons, so make sure you go ahead and play along with it, because with the SG8P Punisher Plasma, you'll see less pronounced arc in its projectile path. Instead, it will start off faster and lose speed more rapidly, keeping its effective range about the same, but the effect to it just looks so much better. Diving into the Plas 101 Purifier, this one right here has a minimum charge of 0.1 seconds that gives a 50% damage multiplier, and the charge of 1 second gives 100% damage multiplier. Nice little bonus that you guys have got there, as long as you notice that there are changes for loads of things. The massive charge projectile damage increased from 100 to 200, the projectile durability damage increased from 50 to 100, charge explosion damage increased from 150 to 300, and the explosion doesn't scale, but a fully charged shot has a different explosion effect, and the charge of 0.1 to 0.99 in a radius 1 meter, outer radius 2 meter, explosive damage 70 bloody 5. It's amazing what they've done with this. The Purifier may actually be a viable option now, but some of you guys have been using the Scorcher for your bots, and that is my go-to for bots, other than maybe the crossbow. But for the Scorcher, we now have auto fire mode, and the fire rate has been increased by 100. The magazine capacity increased by 5, and the spare magazines decreased from 6 to 5, which I think is a variable move and a fair one, to say the least. We've now got it in auto mode, and we can fire it a little bit faster with a bigger magazine, but there are now less magazines, so it means you've got more to put into it in a standard issue rather than actually having to reload and wait. The Plasma Punisher has reduced recoil, and the fire rate increased by 20. The Liberator has horizontal recoil reduced by 30. The Liberator Penetrator has now got a recoil reduced by 30%, which is huge because that was one of its biggest problems. And the magazine capacity has been increased by 15. The spare magazines, though, has dropped from 10 to 7, which means that you guys have got more rounds in a magazine, although less magazines overall, meaning you can fire for longer, but it's obviously not going to have that big of an impact for you. The Liberator Carbine, the recoil horizontal reduced by 30%, as well as the ergonomic increase from 65 to 70, and the reload duration decreased from 3 to 2.5 seconds, which is always nice. But overall, the Liberator Carbine not had a massive buff to it. The Adjudicator, which is a weapon we were talking about just recently, recoil reduced by 30%, damage increased by 10, the durable damage increased by a significant amount from 16 to 23, and the maximum capacity of the magazine increased by 5 as well, but no decrease in the magazines on that one. The Tenderizer new weapon function has a 600 and an 850 RPM, and the Jar 5 Dominator has moved from the explosive weapon category to the special weapon category. A massive mouthful for the primary weapons, but overall a very, very nice movement indeed. And I think this is going to be absolutely huge for a lot of you guys wondering what weapons you can now utilize. There is a lot more to run up. Sidearms, we've had changes to the Verdict, the Senator, and the Stim pistol. The Senator is one that a lot of people have used in the past, and the armor penetration increased from 3 to 4, the damage increased from 125 to 200, and the durable damage increased from 35 to 70. The other figures are on screen, but they are not as important for me personally. I think that they are smaller changes, but it will be quite nice to see you guys having some secondaries that you can utilize. Throwing knives, they use increased from 8 to 20. I think that that's a given, and that was always needing to happen, but they're not useful enough for me in my eyes. The explosive grenade has had a double on the damage increase, as well as the frag grenade being doubled, and the incendiary grenade has been doubled as far as all of their damage increases. Now, stratagems. What are we going to talk about with stratagems? Because we know that they were going to change a lot, including the autocannon recoilless rifle, which you guys already know about, the programmable ammunition, the airburst rocket launcher. The reload duration has been dropped, but it is still not had any changes to that one other than the reload duration. And the LG Stalwart, the ergonomics have been increased from 25 to 40, which should make it feel very, very different indeed. Definitely a viable option. The normal machine gun has had a capacity increase by 25, and the spare magazines increased from 1 to 2 on starting. Heavy machine gun, the magazine capacity is being increased again by 25. So we've just got some bigger rounds and some bigger holding capacities for that one. Now with your backpacks, your jump pack guard dog has now been changed, and your drones obviously are now toggleable. But with the jump pack, your cooldown reduced from 20 to 15 seconds, and the stronger thrust force as well as the thrust vector has been tweaked, which will slightly make a higher and more forward momentum, which is really huge. I think the jump pack is already quite good, but the fact that we've got a little bit more distance on it is absolutely huge. The guard dog armor penetration increased from 2 to 3, damage decreased from 70 to 60, and the magazine increase has been put from 30 to 45. So we're not going to be able to do as much damage, but the armor penetration has been bumped up. So that is going to cause for some great moves when you're using that against maybe some Hulks or even against some Chargers and stuff like that, as well as the toggleable effect now that you can put your drone on standby. Your stratagems, we've had loads. I can't actually get over how much is in this, but the Eagle strafing run, radius slightly increased, and the damage increased by 100. Orbital airstrike, the salvos increased from 3 to 4, as well as the duration of the salvos increased from 3 to 4 seconds. The machine gun sentry, we have had a capacity increase, a cooldown reduced time, and a lifetime reduced time as well. So there is a load of big numbers in that, as well as the Gatling sentry and the rocket sentry, autocannon sentry. All of the cooldowns have been reduced, and we have a reducement on the lifetime deduction as well. The anti-tank mines, though, the mines are now only triggered by heavy enemies such as Chargers, Bio-Titans, Impalers, and Hulks, won't be triggered by smaller enemies. And the damage increase has gone from 800 to 2,000, which is a massive jump. So that's pretty much the same as what we were seeing with the thermite grenade, which means that this is now going to be a massively viable action, especially when you're on those eradicate missions with a bigger explosion radius decrease. So yeah, this is amazing. The Tesla Tower, they've reduced the charge up shots cooldown from 3 to 1, and the cooldown reduced from 150 to 120, with the lifetime reduced from 180 to 150 as well as your shield generator relay, which a few people use, but it's not overly used. They've removed the charge delay between damage taken and increased the charge rate from 300 to 400 health per second. The radius has been increased, and once the shield is down, it will no longer regenerate. So that's a big thing. Your gameplay changes, though, from Terminids and Automatons have been quite a lot, as well as a few fixes. When we start taking a look at the Terminids, though, the Bile Spewer's legs health has been reduced, the Nursing Spewer's legs health being reduced, and the Hunters have a short shared area cooldown for the Pounce ability, which, thank the bloody Lord, we're not going to be jumped over 24/7 now, and you can now totally blow up if affected with enough damage. As well as Scavengers, they can now blow up as well, which always love that blow up animation, so bring some more of that to the table happily. But that's all we've had changed for the Terminids, which I think for me, as far as the Hunters go, even if that was the only thing they changed, that was going to be the best move for that one. And the Automatons, the Automaton targeting, they have some enemies which were able to shoot you without needing proper line of sight, which caused them to fire into and through walls, track you even though you were hidden, and ignore smoke effects. They've addressed this issue and they have rectified that. You obviously are going to need to test this one out and see if it has worked, and let them know if you still encounter issues like that. But Automaton projectiles, normal small projectiles, damage has been reduced, such as the Devastators, emplacements, and conscripts, as well as the heavy projectile damage reduced as well. They've used enemies like the heavy emplacements and scout striders, so that is amazing. Hulk bruisers, now in their response to their disapproval of the newly installed cannon of the Automaton Hulk bruiser, Super Earth High Command sent a crack commando to sabotage their production facilities. The skilled operative promptly escaped into the shadows after completing their mission. Essentially, as a result, the Automatons have had to revert back to using rocket launchers for their Hulk bruisers. I love how they've put a narrative behind that as well. Always love when they do stuff like that. Devastators, head armor decreased from 2 to 1, and the head health increased from 100 to 110. So that's quite nice. That should make a positive impact, as well as the head health from the Berserkers has now been decreased as well. Heavy Devastators, they pause between their salvos being slightly increased. They've providing Helldivers with a better opportunity to counterattack, which we always needed. The Devastators will now be nerfed down to the bloody ground by the looks of it. And all tanks have had a front armor reduced again, and their rear weak spots for the tank body now have their own health pool. So you are going to have to take that into consideration. If you're shooting the back and it doesn't blow up, don't move to the front, just keep that damage going to the back as well. And the only other change alongside that is that with the barrage tank, the turret itself is now destroyed if the tank body is destroyed. So a big move, and I can't wait to see how they do this. They have fixed a few things, including crash fixes, resolved top priority issues, which is one of those. They still haven't sorted the friends list out by the looks of it. It doesn't seem to be something that they are ever going to fix, as well as a few miscellaneous ones. But overall, a very big one. Now, I did try to get through this as much as possible to make sure that this video wasn't overly long for you guys, and hopefully you've got everything that you need. But if you do want more, they have got the 60-day plan conclusion and patch notes video on their main YouTube channel. I'll link that in the description, so make sure you check it out. Thank you so much again for watching, guys. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, appreciate your faces, and as always, I'll see you in the clouds.